Scott Burnside, ESPN.com, here on the latest edition of Hockey Today, the podcast. We hear from head coach Mike Sullivan of the Pittsburgh Penguins and James Van Riemsdyk of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You can find it under the Listen tab on your ESPN app.
Coming up on the First Take podcast on a Thursday, is it fair for Aaron Rodgers to blame Jordy Nelson for his recent struggles? We will get into that. Plus, will Team USA's close call in Rio impact the Warriors super team next season? And the NFL preseason kicks off. So what will Jimmy G prove to the Patriots tonight? Is he the future? Let's get it started.
Let's get it cracking. Let's start the session. March lift the competition, balls by that action. You can never debate it. This is actual fact. Stephen A. and Max Kale say they say it's a rap. I'm like, say what? Say what? What's up with all my haters? I'm a ball when I perform. So my jersey's in the air. I'm allergic to my haters. Every morning I prepare. Lot of clothes I can wear just like them Oregon players. Yeah, quack, quack. What it do? Rap like it's nothing to it. Matter of fact, you can ask hard and I'm cooking too. Base dog cooking too. Nah, look at you. Great mind. They embrace mine like a crooked two. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, you got me.
Oh, hello there. Come on in. Welcome into First Take on a Thursday. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith.
What's up?
What's
up? What's on?
How we doing?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Everything all right?
Yeah, we're good.
Let's roll.
Let's get into it.
Let's get it on.
All right, we're going to start with your boy. How about that? It
Yes.
is no secret Aaron Rodgers had a down year by his standards last season. We attribute much of that to the absence of one of his favorite targets in Jordy Nelson, who, of course, was lost for the season due to injury. But according to Rodgers, Jordy's absence hurt more than the play on the field and also impacted the playbook. Quote, "We have specific packages for him that we didn't have a guy who could fill those packages. The truth is we lost a stud receiver who put up incredible all-pro numbers one year and he's gone the next year without getting that production back. We knew you can't replace a Jordy Nelson." Nelson is expected to be fully healthy for week 1. He's currently on the active, physically unable to perform list with knee tendonitis. Oh, Max, are you okay with Rodgers using Jordy as an excuse?
Yes. Because if you ask him what happened, he said, I lost my best receiver. And he's actually giving him his props. He's saying, look, this guy is irreplaceable. You're going into a season. You want everyone feeling good. But he shouldn't have to make any excuses, Stephen A. What is Aaron Rodgers excusing exactly? Let's think about his season last year for a second. Won 10 games in the regular season, made it to the playoffs, won a playoff game by putting a shellacking on a Washington team some people thought could advance, a shellacking on them. The next week plays the team in Arizona that is now favored, the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. That's the Arizona Cardinals. They were considered among the favorites last year in the playoffs. They had the better team. And yet Aaron Rodgers, forget about his Hail Mary week 13 against the Lions. Like, oh, my God, he'll never make another pass like that. Does it again against Arizona with the game on the line, and they call it back. I'm watching the game with Ryan Hollins, my boy, longtime NBA center. He's over at the place. We're watching the game, and I remember distinctly, I get up off the couch, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Aaron Rodgers, I think you might be the best who ever did it. You got a shot. You know what the best who ever did it would do right here? He'd do it again. Remember, they just called the Hail Mary back. By the way, even calling it a Hail Mary is not exactly accurate because he threw it, first using his legs to escape pressure, then using his arm to throw it down the field. He threw it where only really the offensive player had a shot on the ball, okay? He does it again. This time, Patrick Peterson is in on the play. Throws it again where only the offensive player can make a play on the ball. They score, forces it to overtime, and the defense gives up a score in overtime. You want Aaron Rodgers to play defense too? So I just want to point out that he is now, quote unquote, making excuses for a 10-win season where he won a playoff game, had a miracle play to tie the game and send it to overtime against one of the best teams in football last year that would have put him in the NFC Championship game. And yeah, he lost his best receiver. I think it's fair to say that if he had his best receiver, they would have done even better, which means at least the NFC Championship game. I'm fine with it.
There's so much to teach you. You know, I mean, Max Kellerman, just a few days ago, you sat up there in your brilliance, in your eloquence, You sat up there and talked about how Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to be making an excuse for anybody because if he's a bad man, he shouldn't have to worry about Jordy Nelson. I have said on many occasions, and I will say again, Aaron Rodgers owes no excuse to anybody, but make no mistake about it. Jordy Nelson's absence crippled him because Mike McCarthy did not sit up there and have the requisite game plan necessary to basically offset the loss of a Jordy Nelson because you were evolving everything around Jordy Nelson. Schematically, it was about Aaron Rodgers to Jordy Nelson, an individual at wideout who had accumulated or caught for over 1,200 yards 3 of the previous 4 seasons. Unquestionably, Aaron Rodgers' number 1 weapon. Unquestionably, the speediest receiver on the Green Bay Packers. Without him, what did you have here? You had a situation. Eddie Lacy was fat, out of shape. That was a problem. Richard Rodgers was just coming into his own as a tight end. Randall Cobb can play. We get all of that stuff, okay? Ty Montgomery, he was there. But there was still some stuff that they needed to do. And I just look at it from that perspective, even with Devontae Adams. And I'm saying these guys just were not enough to offset the loss of Jordy Nelson. Because if you're Aaron Rodgers, with that rifle of an arm, with that pocket presence, the things that he can do, being the bad man that he is, you can't do anything if you do not have your number 1 weapon there. I understand there are some people out there that'll bring up Tom Brady, and Tom Brady does it without such and such, but Tom Brady plays in an elite and great and, more importantly, consistent system. Max, Molly, that is the fact. Whereas in the case of Green Bay, it was an aberration. It was foreign territory for Aaron Rodgers. And yet still, not having any receivers with breakaway speed, not having any receivers who could get open, not having any receivers who could really separate themselves and be elite and pick up the slack for Jordy Nelson. What does Aaron Rodgers go out there and do? 31 touchdowns. Just 8 interceptions. The QBR, okay, where was the QBR? The QBR was at 64. And this is the definition of a bad season. Because he's Aaron Rodgers. This is a bad boy. And so when he sits up there and he says, you know what? Return of Jordy Nelson should cure Green Bay's offensive woes. You are absolutely right. Because they have a year under their belt where they prepared without Jordy Nelson. They saw what that's like. Now he's back. Aaron Rodgers is going to be on a mission to redeem himself for this subpar season he had according to his standards, because it's not like Tebow's standards. We all know the difference, right? 64 QBR, 46. You know what I'm saying? Completion of his passes. Don't even get me started. So we know the difference, okay? In the end, Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. He is absolutely right with what he is saying about Jordy Nelson. The Green Bay Packers will win the AFC North, by the way. You can book it. It will happen, and it will happen because a top 3 league MVP candidate is quarterbacking the Green Bay Packers. I'm talking about what he is going to do.
You talk about Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady does it with different weapons. When Tom Brady doesn't have Gronk, they don't challenge for the Super Bowl. They maybe make it to the AFC Championship game, but you know they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl without Gronk. With Gronk, they become the odds-on favorites. Aaron Rodgers couldn't play defense in overtime, or else he would have made it to the NFC Championship game without his best offensive weapon, without his favorite target. He is a bad man. There's no two ways about that. And by the way, could reclaim this year his status as among the players. You know, the players recently said Cam is the best player in the game.
So you're basically,
Aaron Rodgers can reclaim that from Cam.
So you're basically you're agreeing with me.
I have no problem. I don't think it's an excuse. I don't think he needs an excuse.
I just have one question for you, though, before we get to our next topic that we have here. What about Cam Newton last year?
What about him?
Did he lose his number 1 receiver?
Yes.
Yeah. Did he have a lot of weapons? Did he still get the job done?
Oh, excuse me. He had a running game and he had an elite defense. What did Aaron Rodgers have? Did you see Green Bay's defense in certain parts last year? Did you see the receivers unable to get open? Ted Ginn Jr. was dropping passes.
I'm just saying,
Cam Newton's
when you're going to go based, you're going based on weapons.
Well, the conversation yesterday, Molly, was whether or not Cam was tier 1. The fact of the matter is Tom Brady, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, for crying out loud. These are all tier 1 quarterbacks. Cam Newton is on the come up, but not quite there.
I said it yesterday. Based on his
I'm saying it again.
I got one thing.
I did not stutter.
I got one thing to say about Cam Newton. He's a bad man. Ooh, he's a bad man.
On that note, we shall move on to the association. For those of you who thought Team USA men's basketball would have easy work in Rio. Think again. USA trailed Australia at the half, and it was the first time Team USA trailed at halftime in an Olympic game since 2004. The game was tied 8 minutes into the fourth. Now, keep in mind, USA boasts 12 All-Stars, while Australia has 5 current NBA players who have never made an All-Star roster. Australia did a great job of playing without fouling, but it was Carmelo Anthony from 3 who got the job done, putting up 31 points, 14 in the fourth, and became Team USA's all-time leading scorer in the Olympics, passing one LeBron James. So, Stephen A., did this change your mind on Melo playing for Team USA last night?
Hell
they
no.
needed him.
Hell no. Not even a little bit. Look, what do you want, a cookie?
Yeah.
Melo is playing in the Olympics. Melo, when healthy, is one of the top 5 offensive players of this generation. He is 6'8". He is 240. He can score inside. He can score outside. He can score off the dribble. He can score spotting up. He can score from the three-point lane. He's got a mid-range game. He can get to the free throw line. And one-on-one, he's unstoppable. He's Melo. That's who he is. We know what he could do. The fact that you did it against Patty Mills and Andrew Bogut, you want a cookie? I don't care. The fact is, when you look at Team USA, I appreciate the fact that it was a legitimate game, which got me thinking about the Golden State Warriors. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But as it pertains to Melo and my feelings about Melo, Melo is over 31 years of age. Melo has had knee issues in the past. I don't like the fact that Melo is playing. I don't give a damn if I saw Melo in the park. I'd have a problem with him. I want him rested. I want him healthy. I want him ready to go. I don't want fatigue. I don't want injuries. I don't want anything being an excuse for the Knicks losing this year. I don't, look, let me say this. I don't want to come across as unpatriotic. I am an American citizen. I'm black first, but I am an American citizen, okay? The red, white, and blue matters to me. I am a patriot of the highest order. I believe in America. I believe we're the greatest country in the world. I'm always rooting for America, USA. But in this particular instance, I don't care any bit more about a gold medal for Melo with Team USA. Not nearly as much as I care about an NBA championship. Not to say that the Knicks are going to win it this year, because there's no way in hell that's happening. But with Porzingis, with Melo, with D. Rose, a significant upgrade from Jose Calderon, with Joakim Noah, who, as far as I'm concerned, if healthy, is an upgrade from Robin Lopez. With those pieces, with a Courtney Lee, even though I would have preferred D-Wade, but with a Courtney Lee who is no scrub and can play, the New York Knicks should be a top 5 or 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. And outside of Cleveland, even though I would give Boston and Toronto a slight edge, to me it is reasonable to expect the Knicks to make it to the conference finals. Oh. They got a shot. Yeah. They got a shot. As long as they don't have to run into Cleveland. They got a shot.
Because you know why?
Hold on. I'm coming to you. The East is wide open outside of Cleveland. I'm not saying they're favorites. At least 3 teams are above the Knicks. But the Knicks would have a shot. And because they have a shot, do you have any idea how ticked off I'm going to be if something happens and we hear that Melo's tired? Melo's knees are aching. Attrition has kicked in. Oh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. So if y'all are asking, let me be very, very clear about what I am trying to say. Because I understand that it's almost blasphemous for this to come out of my mouth. But I would take, only for the basketball, I'm not talking about the swimmers, the track and field people, the gymnasts, I'm not talking about any of that. Only for the basketball team, and specifically for Melo, I would take the gold medal and throw it in the Hudson River and not give a damn about it in favor of an NBA championship for the New York Knicks. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. 1973, Max Kellerman. And if you are a New Yorker like you say you are, you stand up, you cheer, you acknowledge that I'm right. You don't debate me on this, Max Kellerman. 1973, we have not had a championship. If you got a shot and it gets blown because attrition kicked in because you were playing in Rio, okay, I'm going to be pretty damn ticked off.
You actually got to live through a championship You were born before 1973.
If that's what you call it, at 5 years old, that's what you call it?
January 1973. I wasn't born until August of that year. I've never lived through a Knicks championship. Nevertheless, you told on yourself. You said you're an American and this and that, and you said black first, then American.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And you're a Knicks fan, obviously.
Right.
But actually, you're a citizen of Knicks Nation before the United States of America.
No, only with basketball. Only with basketball.
Yes.
Only with basketball.
It's not the red, white, and blue for you. It's the orange, white, and blue for you.
Only with basketball. Only what you're clapping for. Only with basketball. Only with basketball.
Now, look, let's get back to the original thing. Does it change my mind about Carmelo playing in the Olympics? If you're a Knicks fan, if you're a Carmelo fan, you should not like this. For all the reasons that Stephen A. just pointed out, I don't need to rehash them. It's a bad idea. I mean, it's better than when Powell played if you're a Lakers fan, and he wasn't even playing for the United States, he's playing for Spain, and he's a big man, and they play deep into the playoffs every year. It's like, what are you doing? And then he had an off year, partly, I think, because he was worn down. That's even worse, but this is also not good. Furthermore, setting the all-time scoring record in the Olympics, you know what that's like? It's like Bull Durham. Remember Bull Durham, Crash Davis? He set the all-time minor, this is a Kevin Costner movie, kids. He set the all-time minor league home run record. That's what scoring title in the Olympics is, like the minor league home run record. But that's for someone who never makes it to the show, not for a perennial all-star at the highest level, because the fact is Olympic basketball is a lower level than NBA basketball. NBA basketball is better. It's contested at a higher level. Has the best players concentrated, the whole thing.
I appreciate what you're saying.
So
but
this is a lower level.
Confirm that you agree with me. You already made a New Yorker. You're about to get your New York citizenship stripped from you.
That is not yours to strip.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You're not right, because once he makes whether or not I disagree with Carmelo playing in the Olympics, whether or not I care very much about the United States winning the gold, which I do, I want the United States to win the gold. I just don't think you need your 31-year-old veterans to do it. But once he makes the decision to do it, that ship has now sailed. Now we have to watch what's actually happening. And if it weren't for Carmelo Anthony last night, the Americans probably lose.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's the reality.
So what you're saying?
So I'm saying,
I understand what you're saying.
So does it change my mind about him playing? No, I would prefer him not play in the Olympics. Okay. However, since he made the choice to play, this is now new information, and you have to admit the time for complaining about it was then. Now we're along for the ride. You gotta be happy about this now.
No. I'm not unhappy. I just don't care. That's the difference.
You care. If Team USA lost, you care.
Listen. I would care if they lost. True, but I don't see them losing. I couldn't imagine them losing when it was a two-possession game. I wasn't concerned. I mean, it's Andrew Bogut and Patty Mills against Team USA. What am I worried about it for? I mean, please, mere bag of shells. It's no big deal. I wasn't worried about. We're worried about it. Here's my point to you. This is the problem. Everyone, and I hope Melo's somewhere where he sees this. You know why everybody's making a big deal about this? It's not because Team USA survived. Because you anticipated somehow, some way they'd find a way to survive. You know why they're making a big deal out of this? Because Melo, being in a clutch situation, is an aberration, because we don't see that much because he plays for the Knicks. And when have they been required to be in such dire situations?
By the way,
dire circumstances?
You got to get into your Knicks analysis, too.
Listen.
You got to get into your Knicks analysis,
Listen to what I'm saying to you. If you're Carmelo Anthony, I know. I've watched him since his days at Syracuse. Melo, big time. Melo, let me tell you something right now. Melo got the heart of a lion. Melo ain't scared of nothing. Put the ball in his hands. If LeBron had Melo, LeBron would have had championships before he actually won them, because Melo would have closed the deal for him. Because unlike Wade and everybody else that would have tried to bring LeBron along during that maturation period years ago, Melo would have said, look, man, give me the damn ball. I appreciate how you got us to this fourth quarter. Now move out the way. I got this. That's what would have happened. And LeBron is the ultimate sidekick, even though he's no sidekick now because he's a superstar. But there were times in his career where he was willing to be a sidekick. Melo is that big time. There is nothing that we saw from Melo offensively last night that should be a surprise to any of us, okay? I was at the Garden when he dropped 60. This is who he is. This is Melo. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it don't mean anything because it's this. Australia. You already got 2 gold medals. You're going to get a third. Where's the other 2 medals? I wonder. The bottom line is it don't matter because that's not what it means. What it means is we're waiting for a championship. And I'm telling y'all right now, you think you've seen me ticked off before. I promise you, it is nothing compared to how ticked off I'm going to be if Melo gets hurt this year. I'm going to lose my mind. If Melo gets hurt this year, I'm going to lose my mind because you know what? You should be doing everything you can to strengthen yourself and prepare yourself for this season. A gold medal does not replace an NBA championship, which has evaded this man for his entire career. Do you realize the great, and I do mean offensively, the offensively great, Carmelo Anthony has never played in an NBA Finals ever.
Maybe he's not as good as you think he is.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Because you say offensively great, but in fact, I agree with everything you say if you take offense out and just put scoring in. Offense is more than scoring, and it's more than ISO scoring. And in terms of his breaking the points record or coming through in the clutch, the fact is it was LeBron James's record he broke, but LeBron's got 3 chips, so it's okay if he has an Olympic scoring title record. Carmelo has never played in the finals, as you mentioned, so it's not as okay. You, as a Knicks fan, got your hopes way too high. The conference finals?
I said could.
Look, first of all,
I expect semifinals.
Joakim Noah
but they could go to the conference.
Joakim Noah, who's one of my favorite players ever, does not play for the Knicks. The remains of Joakim Noah play for the Knicks. I mean, let's be honest about this. He is not the same player due to injury and age and how hard he always has played throughout his career. Well, that's not the same player. Courtney Lee, by the way, was an excellent pickup. For the money, I mean, he's cheaper than Wade.
4 years, $50 million. But you know what?
Can play without the ball, can shoot the three, can defend your best perimeter player.
See, this is ridiculous. First of all, Courtney Lee is cheaper. There's a reason he's cheaper, because he's not as good
as Wade, of course.
Let me finish. You got 4 years, $50 million. Who gives a damn about Courtney Lee in year 3 or 4? You could have gave Wade 50 for 2 years and called it a day. He would have taken it and rolled into New York City. It's quite possible.
Does that fit under the cap?
Yeah, excuse me. You could find a way, if you're the New York Knicks, if you could find a way to give Joakim Noah 72 and find a way to give Courtney Lee $50 million over 4 years, you could damn sure find a way to give Dwayne Wade 2 years, $50 million. Trust me, just trust me.
How many guys do you want on the same team who need the ball? Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Kristaps Porzingis.
I'm here for you.
You need a couple guys that don't need the ball.
I'm here for you because I understand that when you watching boxing and you see some of these dudes get hit, occasionally you might get hit yourself, Max. I'm here for you. But here's the deal, Mac. You take D. Wade. Why? Because there's nobody else on the New York Knicks that have a championship. No one. Who else has one? Somebody's got to be there to be the guiding tool to you, to show you the way.
No championship team ever won without a guy who'd already won one?
Not that I recall, and I'm here to tell you something right now. Here's the deal. In the end, what it comes down to is this. I'm not going to belabor the point. Damn it, Phil Jackson should have got D. Wade instead of Courtney Lee. What I'm saying, however, is this. I don't expect the Knicks to get to the conference finals. I'm hopeful. But in the case of everybody else, could the Knicks get in the first round? And if you have to run into Toronto or Boston as a number 2 seed, could they knock them off in the second round? Based on paper and what we see, you're damn right. Joakim Noah, you might talk about his skills have diminished. You know what I would respond to you? What skills are you talking about? Because guess what? With Joakim Noah, he's always an awkward-looking player. He's there for his size, his tenacity, his fervor, his defense, his rebounding. A healthy Joakim Noah can play that role.
Yeah, but the odds are he's not going to be healthy based on recent history.
Well, the odds are fine. But I specifically said if you luck up and you're able to stay healthy.
He's a worse version of Robin Lopez, who they traded.
Ridiculous.
Essentially traded for him, although not exactly at this point.
Listen. There's something to be said about dudes inside that locker room that's going to hold you accountable, that can be an energizer bunny if they're healthy enough, so the players will come out and play to a max level.
All I'm saying is, what the Knicks need is a time machine. Then they'd be contenders. If they could fast forward Kristaps Porzingis' career, if they could go back in time for Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah, they'd have something.
Melo's got time left. Melo, I don't like Melo playing in this, but let me tell you something. Melo, his game is not as predicated on his athleticism the way a LeBron James is. Melo is a shooter and scorer, particularly from the outside, even though he's big enough and strong enough to beat you from the inside. So the fact that he has those requisite outside perimeter skills makes him lethal. Can the Knicks beat a Toronto and or a Boston? Yes, they can. I'm not saying I would favor them right now.
Year for you.
I'm not saying I would favor them right now.
This is not going to be good for your health.
They can do it. They can do it.
Your lips to God's ears. They can do it.
You know what, Miss Connecticut? Who's your team? Who's your team?
I don't have
the
a
Huskies?
team. Yes, I do root for UConn
The Huskies got a better shot at winning the NBA title than the Knicks.
I'm not biased like you.
Please.
I just report the news.
Okay.
Mello, congrats on your scoring record. I appreciate it here, and I care. And also, Kyrie Irving, so clutch. We'll get into that a little bit later. Nick Saban and Alabama have cleared the way for Morris Smith to transfer within the SEC. His mother confirms to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, first reported by the Tuscaloosa News. Smith will have to be granted a waiver from the SEC, which has restrictions on athletes with less than 2 years of eligibility remaining transferring to league schools, including graduate transfers. Smith graduated earlier this month. His mother, Samira Smith, cautioned the Morris that his battle is not over, but told the AJC a decision from the conference is expected within the next 24 hours. Stephen A., does this make Nick Saban look any better?
I think it does. But before I get into that, we were talking about basketball a little while ago. I was talking so fast. The Warriors were the last team just a couple of years ago that won it without any champions on their roster. So let's point that out. Let me get back to this. I think Nick Saban looks good because he had no choice. Now, some would say that wouldn't make you look good because you relented to public pressure. Yep. You know, Maurice Smith graduated from your school. He wanted to transfer. You were leaning on the SEC rule you use that as an excuse so you didn't have to grant him the transfer or allow, or get lax with the rules to allow the transfer to take place. Now it's in the hands of the SEC. It seems to me like the SEC uses the coaches and say, because it does say that the coach can make the exception. Then the SEC has to waive its process. So the coach leads on the SEC conference as an excuse. The SEC leads on the coach as an excuse. And the athlete is the one that gets screwed over because you're the one that's powerless in all of this. I have a problem with that. The fact that Nick Saban just shoved that aside and let it go, I think it's wise. The man graduated. He was a student athlete. He went to school. He got his grades. He got his education. And now he should have the freedom to do what he wants to do. And there's no way in hell that you should hold him back from doing that. Nick Saban looked petty is all hell in that regard. He deserved to be called out nationally about it. And I'm glad that he saw the error of his ways. And I think that other people are going to look at somebody as stoic, as rigid, as firm, and as convicted as Nick Saban, recognizing that he still found it within himself to correct what obviously we perceive as an error. I think that makes him look very, very big, as big as he is, and I applaud him for it. But I wanted to use this segment, Max, to take this to another level. I'm actually of the belief and the mindset that the government should get involved with this situation involving the SEC. The fact that the SEC still has this rule in place that prohibits a player from transferring from one school to another with less than 2 years eligibility and all that, that's a bunch of crap. Here's the reality. Kirby Smart was the defensive coordinator in Alabama for 8 years. He can leave and go to a school within the same conference, which is Georgia, sign a 6-year, $3.75 million per year contract, but a player can't leave. There is something very un-American about that. Okay, I can sit up there and I can talk to the high heavens or whatever. I'm a proud black man, but I'm an American. I can talk about all of that. I love this nation of ours. I love this country. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is that in the United States of America, the fact that a football conference, with all the exploitative measures that they already exercise, not paying the student athlete, collecting money, knowing that their products, knowing that that they have value, but treating them like amateurs, justifying not paying them, doing all of these things, that's egregious enough. We've been talking about it to the point where you have even coaches who have come out publicly and say whether it's a stipend or something, we've got to do something to compensate these players, because they even recognize with the billions being poured into college football, you have to figure out a way to pay these guys. But this goes further than this. The fact that an SEC, that any conference, anywhere, can literally sit there and prohibit a kid from transferring to a school when a coach can do it. There is something incredibly un-American about it. If Maurice Smith can't be granted a waiver by the SEC, and be allowed to transfer to Georgia. Why is Kirby Smart allowed to be the head coach at Georgia? I don't have a problem with Kirby Smart going to Georgia. I think a grown man should be allowed to go where he wants. I think if you're a kid over 18 years of age, you get to serve your country. You can put your life on the line. You can die for your country, but you can't transfer to a school because of some bogus rule that's in place. It needs to stop. I believe our government, Congress, should get involved. And I think that somehow, some way, the SEC should be forced to change its rules. You want to transfer to an SEC school? If you got to sit out a year or something, so be it. All right. But if a coach can go and take a job in the same conference, a player should be allowed to as well. It is un-American to deny this man or any player an opportunity to transfer to another school just because they're in the same conference.
I think what you're talking about, because I had the same thought, is a legal challenge of some kind.
Yes.
It's unfair and maybe illegal. I don't know if it can be, at some point it'll be challenged and hopefully changed. I agree with that. I want to get back to Nick Saban here.
Sure.
Does this make him look better? The answer is no, because he was publicly shamed into finally doing the right thing. Look, Nick Saban is the greatest living college football coach and arguably the greatest college football coach who ever lived. Who doesn't have a lot of respect for him as a football coach? But here, he's being a bully and worse, because he is using a kid's life and the choices that kid makes now and the direction that his life will take as a pawn in a power struggle with Kirby Smart, with his former defensive coordinator. I mean, that's what's really happening here. He's having a tiff with Kirby Smart. There, SEC thing.
Clearly.
And he's using this kid as a pawn, but this kid has a life. And when Nick Saban says, I don't think it's in this kid's best interest, who are you to make? First of all, he's graduated. Secondly, that's his choice to make. Whether or not it's in his best interest, coach, that's not your choice, except that it is your choice because you are so empowered by the unfair and maybe illegal rules in college football. But just because you have that power doesn't mean you should exercise it in this way. In fact, once you're given that power, as Uncle Ben and Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. I mean, really, you're given that power.
You really do watch your movies, don't you?
Well, on the plane, I have nothing. That's when I catch all the movies.
I think it's
I
in the
got 3 little
Bible,
kids. I haven't been to a movie in 2 years, but I see them on the plane. The point is that you have that responsibility. Partly you're entrusted with that responsibility because you're expected to behave like an adult, not like a child with a shiny toy that he doesn't want to share with someone else. It's outrageous. Nick Saban here, again, maybe the greatest college football coach of all time, a brilliant, hard-working guy. I understand that. But here, this is the corrupting nature of power. He is too empowered. He's abusing the power. He's using a kid's life as a pawn. And the fact that he would do that and make the comment, I think it's in his best interest, as though this kid who's now graduated college doesn't know what's in his best interest or shouldn't have the right to act on it, is outrageous.
Yeah, but the flip side to it is that even though you're a little bit late to the party, you still got to the party. And I give Nick Saban credit for that. He deserves credit for that, number one. Number two, as a leader of young men, by and large, he has, I don't want to say a flawless record because we know it's not flawless, but it's pretty damn impeccable. And when you look at it from that perspective, I'm not going to get on Nick Saban for questioning whether or not something is best for the kid, because one of the reasons that parents allow their kids to go to a program is because the coach there has given you the impression that he will make decisions best for the kids. Ergo, you're giving him the license to think like that as a college coach. Now, if you're a grown man, that's different. But when you're a kid and you're evolving, a coach has the right to have the opinion that something may or may not be in the best interest
but
of
not
a kid.
when he's exercising his power over you.
I understand that.
After you've graduated.
But wait a minute. But that's where we get into government intervention. Because if you're Nick Saban, why should you not have power that the SEC has and has also granted you? Why should they have the power? The power could be completely stripped and eviscerated from them. But also, while we're talking about this, let's not give Kirby Smart a pass. I respect him. I think that he's going to do a good job. I'm glad he got the job at Georgia. Georgia. I don't know Kirby Smart from a can of paint. I don't know him. But what I'm saying is this. With that kid Turbin, not only did you not allow him to go to another SEC school, you didn't want him to go to Miami or Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech was a competitor down the road from Athens, Georgia. Who are you to make that call? So even though he's trying to cover himself by saying, oh, if a kid graduated, I certainly would have held it back. Kirby Smart holds firm to the belief that Nick Saban had and the other SEC coaches had. None of them are innocent in all of this. The SEC is the main culprit in all of this. And I think Congress should get involved in forcing them to eradicate that rule immediately because it is un-American.
You talk about hypocrisy and point out Kirby Smart going to Georgia. Okay, what about Nick Saban? Now, I understand it's not directly from LSU to Alabama, but Nick Saban was the head coach at LSU. He took an NFL job and then winds up at Alabama. That's not only the SEC, that's the Western Division. I mean, don't give me a whole song and dance about it.
No, and that's what you were saying.
This guy goes, this coach who's stopping a kid from doing what he wants, exercised his right to choose a job in the same division in the SEC and get paid millions for it.
And it's a double standard.
Has the gall to talk about what's best for this kid.
Well, again,
who's
like I said,
graduated school.
Like I said, it's perfectly within his right to do it. We don't like it because it pertains to this rule. But by and large,
of his right.
It's a little abuse of it, which is why I applaud him for correcting himself. I've got somebody that, really teaches me and has taught me a lot over the years about collective bargaining and beyond. He just texted me and said it's called restraint of trade.
Yeah, restraint of trade.
It's part of the challenges before the courts at the core of the current antitrust cases against the NCAA. So I'm calling for government intervention. Obviously, the NCAA can do something to influence the SEC, but I think overall, because of the hypocrisy of the NCAA and the conferences which fall under their purview, I think it calls for government intervention to force their hand to change the rule.
It would be likely happen through the courts, but if you're the NCAA, be smart about this. Instead of having this forced upon you, which will ultimately lead to the NCAA dissolving. I mean, who knows what the impact is? Get out ahead of it. Stop being so abusive of your power. Stop having rules that are unfair and perhaps illegal. Because when they are challenged and you lose, you're going to be in a much worse place than if you simply do it now yourself.
Of course, and the bottom line, coaches can do it and players should be able to too. So we'll see if anything evolves with that rule.
Hi, this is Reese Waters from Off Center. This episode, I defend Russia. We talk about getting dumped and we set new street fight rules. Plus, ESPN NFL's Jeff Dickerson and I discuss what movie drove us to drink in the theater. Download in the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
Joey Bosa, who the Chargers drafted 3rd overall out of Ohio State, is the only first-round pick who has not signed with his team, and this is the longest a rookie player has remained unsigned under the NFL's current collective bargaining agreement. However, it appears the ball is in the team's court since July 28th. That was the day the team made an offer. Bosa quickly responded, and the Chargers have not countered. His future teammate, Chargers vet Antonio Gates, thinks Bosa should take a different approach, bypass his agents, make something happen on his own, saying sometimes you got to just, as a man, you got to step in and say, this is what it's going to be. Because sometimes, whether or not there's miscommunication with the general manager or the agent, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your career. Stephen A., did Gates cross the line?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did to some degree. I'm tempted to sit there and say he should mind his damn business. The reason I say that is because Antonio Gates was suspended 4 games last year. In 2005, Antonio Gates held out before getting a contract extension. But you would feel the need to speak up now. So that's my initial thought, Max. That's my initial thought. But then I thought about it a little bit further. And I said to myself, I sort of understand where he's coming from, but I still wish he hadn't said anything. And Max, I'm going to do something I normally don't do. I'm going to give you the floor because I want to hear what you have to say first, because I don't want to say what I'm about to say until I hear you speak.
This is an easy one. First, it starts with Tom Telesco, the GM, getting on the radio in San Diego, talking about, well, we need to compromise. That's a slimy PR campaign. That's the beginning of a slimy PR campaign by San Diego. Compromise. You got every guy who's been picked 3rd overall since the new slotting system in 2011-12, every single one of them either has offset language out of the contract or they get their bonus paid in full by the end of their rookie year. Every single one of them. So San Diego made an offer. Bosa's side countered that. They were like, okay, here's the compromise. One or the other. I'm not asking for both. Like Goff got, he was picked number 1 overall. There's another guy in the top 5, got both. I'm not saying one. Here's the compromise, San Diego. Just like everyone else in my position drafted since the new slotting system, one or the other. Has San Diego countered since then? Not according to reports. The ball is in their court. It's their turn to do something.
So what about Antonio Gates?
Oh, I'm getting there. San Diego's got to do something. They haven't done anything. They're the ones not compromising. They're the ones being pig-headed. And now, because they know that, they are waging a media campaign, it seems, a slimy PR campaign against Bosa. It starts with Telesco on the radio. Oh, we need to compromise, please. And it feels like Gates is part of that. It feels as though Gates is coming out as kind of part of this push by the San Diego front office to exert pressure on Joey Bosa. And I would just say to Antonio Gates, why are you counting Joey Bosa's money? Leave that is none of your business. Leave that man's money alone.
That's why I said, go ahead, Max. Because that was my initial response. And then I thought about something. And I put my conspiracy theories in, I put it all in the mix. And I came to a conclusion. Antonio Gates looks a bit hypocritical because he's held out in 2005. Looks like he should shut the hell up since he's the one that got suspended for 4 games last year for PED use. I sat up there and I said, you know something? I'm going to give Antonio Gates a little bit of credit. Because Antonio Gates has been around the NFL long enough. He understands how this works. He also understands how Joey Bosa may be biting off his hand to spite his face and not even realizing it. Antonio Gates may very well be going about the business of warning Joey Bosa about exactly what's going on and giving the brother a heads up about the politics of the NFL. Because here's what Joey Bosa needs to realize. And again, we live in a society where a lot of these football players, yes, you know, you got black folks spending over $1.3 trillion in this country. You got black folks with money here. Everybody ain't poor, but you got, but by and large, when you look at some of these football players, particularly white football players, they come from better backgrounds. So the belief is we can hold out a little bit longer. We can stay the course. We don't have to bend. We don't have to fold. But this is the NFL. And the NFL ain't about that. They will squash you like a little bug when you least expect it. Sometimes even when you do expect it. Even if you're Joey Bosa. You're Joey Bosa. You're coming out of Ohio State. You got a high motor. That was your M.O. Kim Dichie, people thought that he was better than Joey Bosa. Some people thought that anyway. So when you look at Joey Bosa, and the fact that he has some things to prove. And then you combine that with the fact that you find yourself in this situation with the San Diego Chargers. Antonio Gates, as hypocritical, duplicitous, and downright phony as he may look to the naked eye, in fact, might be trying to look out for Joey Bosa by trying to help him and warn him. Publicly as well as privately.
By the way, that might even be Antonio Gates' intention. Right. But the effect of it is is essentially, at least attempts, to exert pressure on Bosa to do the team's bidding.
Not if Antonio Gates is telling them that's what they're going to do to you, Joey. Well, be ready.
Well, here's the thing about the Chargers right now. The Chargers, remember, Phillip Rivers came out in that same draft with Eli and Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep. Right.
And Phillip Rivers is just as good as those guys. I mean, those guys are, whoever you want to order them, Roethlisberger on top, whatever.
Yeah, he just doesn't have any rings. He just doesn't have any rings.
He just doesn't have any rings because he is playing for an inferior organization. He's not playing for the Steelers. He's not playing for the Giants. He's playing for the Chargers. The Chargers do not seem very serious. Look, the AFC West this year, we talk about that top 10 poll, right? You know, the power rankings. Every other team in the division is in the top 10 power rankings. Chargers aren't. And now they have a top 3 draft pick, and they're playing games with him, and they're enlisting their greatest tight end ever to try to exert pressure and using the GM on radio to exert pressure to save a dollar, or really not even save a dollar, just so they can have precedent set in such a way that favors them going forward in negotiations. This is not the way a top-flight franchise is run. The Chargers look bad here. Antonio Gates at the very least, I appreciate your point. It's a good one. But at the very least, looks bad here. And you know what? You reap what you sow, San Diego. There are elite franchises and there are other kinds of franchises. And right now, San Diego's behaving like the other kind of franchise.
When you give somebody a heads up and you're warning them, it don't matter how you look if you got a contract. And it doesn't matter how you look if you've been in the league for years and you and Phillip Rivers know that the clock is ticking and you got an opportunity to do something this year, particularly in a suspect AFC West. You got Mark Sanchez, Paxton Lynch, or Simeon that could be the quarterback in Denver. You got Oakland on the come up but haven't proven themselves yet. You got the Kansas City Chiefs, who should be the favorites out west with Andy Reid, Alex Smith, and the crew. But you just never, ever know because Alex Smith is the ultimate game manager who manages to win games, but also doesn't manage to win them for you when there's a deficit that he has to overcome. So if you are the Denver Broncos, if you are sitting there and you're the San Diego Chargers, you have an opportunity with a Phillip Rivers to really make some
noise. Give the boys some help.
Get anything on the defensive side, you could give him some and give him some help.
They're more interested.
That's what it is.
They're more interested in making sure the precedent is their way for future negotiations
that don't mean that's
than
what
making
Antonio
the
Gates
team good.
That doesn't mean that's what Antonio Gates is
Antonio
thinking.
Gates appears like he's doing the team's bidding. Whether or not he is, that's the appearance of it.
They certainly need Bosa. We all know that.
We don't know that. We don't know that. We think they do.
They do.
We don't know what Bosa's going to do.
They went to the playoffs.
I'm just saying, we don't know what Bosa's going to do. We don't know.
That boy good.
Meanwhile, NFL.com released their preseason power rankings, and the NFC owns the top of the list with the Panthers, Cardinals, and Packers at 1, 2, and 3. The Broncos and the Patriots rounding out the top 5. So the Seahawks, Steelers, Vikings, Chiefs, and Raiders round out the top 10. One team that didn't make the top 10, that would be America's team, who came in at number 18 despite Dallas being the favorite to win the NFC East, according to the odds makers. So joining us now, two-time Super Bowl champ Damian Woody in the house. Thank you for joining us. We need your expertise. But Stephen A., I want to start with you here in your favorite team, the Cowboys. Do they belong in the top half of the power rankings?
Before I answer that question, I need an answer. Who the hell made this power rankings? Who did this?
You need names again?
I need names.
I don't have the names.
Who did this? Who did this? This is Elliot Harrison.
Oh, I know Elliot.
For the NFL.
NFL Network.
I've never met him.
I met him.
I'm sure he's a very, very nice guy. Elliot, I'm speaking only for this particular segment. Nothing else in life. I don't like you right now. Here is why. He's going to actually have me defending these damn Cowboys. I really don't appreciate this. Let me tell you something right now. How in the hell are the Jacksonville Jaguars ranked above the Dallas Cowboys? Everybody making all of this noise about Miles Jack. I think Miles Jack is going to be big time once he gets healthy. But last time I checked, he was in college. He's just coming to the NFL. There's a maturation process that takes place, not to mention the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, Damien, I mean, didn't this dude have a knee injury that he has to overcome? And there's a question as to whether or not he's going to even be available for the beginning of the season. I think that's the same Miles Jack. Am I wrong? I'm just saying. Damien Woody, I'm just saying. I'm just checking. Is that right? Okay.
He said true like TRU. No E at the end.
Watch it. Okay. So we got the Jaguars. That's number 17. That's somebody that should be behind the Cowboys. Okay. Let me just go down the list here. Why are the Texans at number 13? Brock Osweiler is your quarterback. We're not sure about him. We saw him for 7 games last year, being supported by one of the top defenses in all of the NFL, which ended up showing us that because they won the Super Bowl championship by neutralizing Cam Newton, the bad man that he is. Okay, so why are they there? I'm not sure. And by the way, is J.J. Watt going to be ready? Are we sure that J.J. Watt is going to be ready? I don't think we're sure. So that's at number 13. I don't understand why the Texans did. That's 2 of them right there, okay? Then let's go down the list here. The Raiders. I like the Raiders. I think the Raiders have a tremendous upside. But what have they done? The fact of the matter is, you got Carr. We know he could play. Amari Cooper's a stud. Khalil Mack is the man. No doubt about it. But they still got some things to prove. And getting back to the Jacksonville Jaguars, they haven't won more than 5 games in 5 years, and they haven't been 500 or better since 2007. But they're above the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I just can't believe it. This dude, what's this dude's name again? Who's this?
Elliot Harrison. Good dude. You'll like it. He knows his football.
I'm not saying he doesn't know his football. I'm not questioning his knowledge. I would never question the knowledge of those dudes over there because they're my friends. Elliot, I don't like you right now because you got me defending the Cowboys. We're going to talk about this when I meet you, okay? Now, we got that out the way, okay? So look, we're looking at that. Don't get me started with the Bengals who still haven't won a playoff game in 12 years under Marvin Lewis. 12 years hasn't won one single playoff game.
Dalton wasn't healthy. Dalton wasn't healthy.
Even the Dallas Cowboys won a playoff game and reached. I can't believe I'm saying this right now. This
I
is
can't
breaking my
believe it
heart.
either.
Okay, and so we got all of that going on. Then the Broncos at number 4. Oh, Mark Sanchez, Paxton Lynch, and some dude Trevor Siemian is going to be your quarterback. I just gave you 5 questionable
You got a lot of
teams.
nerve.
So all I'm saying to you is this. The Dallas Cowboys, there's 6 teams, playoffs from each conference. Dallas, it's possible because the Redskins should be the favorite, but I think they're allergic to prosperity, just like the Cowboys are, and I think it's a toss-up in the NFC East. It is possible that the Dallas Cowboys are going to make the playoffs. I don't see how. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's sacrilegious. I want to apologize to all of those people out there who support me and know me to despise the Cowboys because they have the worst fan base in history. I can't stand them. The fans, they make me sick, man. I just can't stand Cowboy fans. They're the worst. But I actually have to come to the defense of the Cowboys today because of this. Because I'm objective and I'm fair. I'm objective and I'm fair.
Allow me, and you can adjudicate.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I know. I mean, the nerve of you. I know you're not sitting there talking about. Oh, first of all, you're like, what have they ever done? You better start worrying about what they're going to do and not what they've done, because we're talking about this upcoming year. All these teams.
All right.
That's number one. Number two, I know Stephen A. Smith isn't sitting over there bringing up injury history with other teams. Look, if you're playing the Dallas Cowboys roster on Madden and you take injury mode off and you take
I only mentioned injuries about the Jaguars.
And you take suspension mode off, then yeah, the Cowboys, their roster on paper.
But I only mentioned it about the Jaguars. Just the Jaguars.
Yeah.
What have you done? I forgot the Jaguars had a damn team.
Okay, now let's talk about the Cowboys. Tony Romo, your quarterback, is highly unlikely to make it through the season. He is a chronic back issue, and he's old. Now, when he's on the field, is he elite? Yes, but he's not on the field a whole lot. Des Bryant was hurt a lot of last year. Jason Witten is old and played all banged up last year and was less effective than he would otherwise be. Ezekiel Elliott is dealing with injury right now. Right now, hamstring. The whole front 7 is suspended. On paper, again, Madden, you take suspension mode off and injury mode off. Yeah. I'll give it to you. The Cowboys are a top-tier team. But you play in reality, the Cowboys are a bottom-half team. They're probably not going to have a quarterback for most of the year, Stephen A.
You know, it's funny hearing you guys deal in hypotheticals. I deal in facts, okay? And the facts are this. All the quarterbacks that you mentioned, none of them can stand in the same room as Tony Romo. Tony Romo is one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. We know that this is a quarterback-driven league. Mm-hmm. When you look at the Dallas Cowboys offensively, they can score points with any team in the National Football League. Yes, granted, their front 7 on defense right now stinks. It seems like half the front 7 is suspended. But the easiest way to make the playoffs is winning your division, right? Would you all agree?
Yeah.
Sure.
So let's take a look at the NFC East.
Yes, please.
What defense in that division scares you? The Giants bought a defense. We don't know what they're going to do.
The Eagles are non-existent, but what about the Redskins?
I'm not buying the Redskins defense.
Norman with Breland?
I'm not buying that.
But
you're going to have to show me.
None of them scare you. None of them. But on paper, the Giants and Washington probably have a better defense than Dallas.
Listen, my preseason pick, I'm picking the Giants to win that division.
Me too.
But I think within that division, it's going to be a shootout every week. So what personnel is better capable of a shootout than the Dallas Cowboys?
The personnel that's on the field.
Tell me. First of all.
Well, you're dealing in hypotheticals. What if? What if? Right now, is Tony Romo out? Right now,
listen, I just said I defended the Cowboys.
Is Tony Romo out?
Hold on, wait a minute. You just finished telling us that you got the Giants. Ain't that a hypothetical?
Yes, I got the Giants. But listen, when we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, we said the original question was, are they Do they deserve to be in the upper echelon?
17.
That means in the top 16. Do I feel like the Dallas Cowboys are a top 16
That's
team?
right. And
yes, they do. I'm not saying that they're going to go to the playoffs.
So you agree with me?
Yes, I do agree with you.
But you're both wrong because even though you're saying I'm dealing in hypotheticals, you got to have an idea of what's likely or unlikely to happen. Is it likely, knock wood, that Eli Manning makes it through the season? He's only the current consecutive games played leader in the NFL.
Hold on.
Knock wood again.
I got it.
But is Tony Romo likely to make it through the season?
Hold on. Max Kellerman. Stop bringing up the reliability of Eli Manning.
Why?
We respect him. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion. He is also a quarterback that has not missed a game, really, since he's got into as a starter. But he's led the league in interceptions 3 times. He's missed the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. Six of the last 7 years. He's been home watching the playoffs like me and you. My point to you
Tony
is,
Romo got 2 playoff wins.
Don't get me. I'm not defending Tony Romo. I'm not defending Tony Romo. I'm saying that if you're going to give me the Jacksonville Jaguars, it can't be. You can't. You can't have me in a position that I'm coming out because you tell me Blake Bortles is going to be better.
What was the original question?
You said
the original question.
Cowboys.
All the Dallas Cowboys are upper echelon teams. Yes, they are.
On paper, but the game isn't played out.
Where should they be? Are they top 10?
No, they're not.
Hold on, by the way, one last thing. You said that none of those quarterbacks that they were mentioned with teams could stand in the room with Tony Romo. Actually, Andy Dalton performed at I know he has a bad playoff track record. Until he got hurt, played extremely well last year. I would certainly say on a Tony Romo level.
But nobody said, listen, when we point out the Bengals, it's really not about Dalton. If it's decent as he is, because his problem is the postseason. His problem is the postseason, not the regular season. But the point is that culpability. When I talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, everything is a byproduct of Marvin Lewis because you've been there for 12 years and you haven't won a single playoff game. You haven't found a way to win a single playoff game. And last year, y'all melted down because of lack of discipline. That was definitely on Marvin Lewis because you got to be able to reel those players in. Am I wrong?
You're on point. Listen, Cincinnati Bengals got one of the best rosters in the National Football League.
Cowboys too on offense.
No. On offense, yes, they got a potent offense.
But they don't stay on the field. The roster doesn't do it. The players on the field do it.
We can't talk about last year.
The Broncos are too high, too.
What do you think's going to happen this year?
Hey, man, you're getting them all riled up.
I'm just starting.
In a really tight game, Team USA pulled it out thanks to a record-setting night by one Carmelo Anthony and a clutch late 3 by Kyrie Irving that was eerily reminiscent of his game-winning shot over the Warriors in the finals. Now, keep in mind, USA boasts 12 All-Stars, including Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson of the Warriors, while Australia has 5 current NBA players, none of them All-Stars. Stephen A. Smith, did this close game get you a little more excited about the Warriors this season?
No, it did not. I wish it did. It had me... it actually had the opposite effect.
Really?
It actually had me that much more annoyed at Kevin Durant going to Golden State because you look at the Western Conference. Look, I just saw my man CP3 the other day. NBA Players Association's new offices in Midtown. Spectacular job on all those parts. He's really trying to do a phenomenal job of taking care of the players and setting the tone moving into the next millennia. He should be very proud of himself. But I don't see his Clippers team really competing with the Golden State Warriors because as long as you get to foul DeAndre Jordan in the fourth quarter, you know, he's either going to have to make free throws or sit on the bench. And I'm sorry, that's not going to be enough to beat Golden State. Pau Gasol is very good and gifted. But this ain't Tim Duncan 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so everybody else in the Western Conference, as far as I'm concerned, are irrelevant and don't matter. And I think that while Golden State can be suspect defensively, particularly with the departure of Andrew Bogut and Harrison Barnes, the fact of the matter is they're so prolific offensively. You can't afford to make mistakes when you have the ball. Otherwise, they'll bury you, which is what I anticipate they will do. The sad part about this upcoming NBA season is that I only see one team giving them a shot, giving them a run for their money, and it happens to be the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are in the Eastern Conference. So when I looked at last night, I said to myself, unless someone gets hurt, and we're certainly not wishing for that to happen to anybody, this season is going to be the equivalent of watching, some juggernaut AAU squad or something like that. We're basically watching the Golden State Warriors in cruise control skate through the season. They'll have their troubles, making adjustments, one basketball for all the offensive weapons they have. They won't win 73 games this year. They might win 70 or 71, something like that. But in the end, once the regular season is over, and you're talking about the playoffs, you're talking about an elite offensive juggernaut of a team, to me, that can only be knocked off by the preeminent basketball superstar in the entire world. And his name is LeBron James. And whatever help you give him, that's going to be the only way that you have a shot to knock this team off. Last night reminded me of Warriors dominance, because I looked at how your Team USA was supposed to be so dominant, how interesting Australia made it, and I said everybody's going to jump on it and say, see, this could happen. Oh, shut up. It's not going to happen, at least not during the regular season and into the Western Conference playoffs. I don't see it happening. It is imminent. Unless an injury takes place, it is Golden State, it is the Cleveland Cavaliers, a trilogy in the NBA Finals. That's what we have to look forward to. And unfortunately, I have to look forward to getting stuck in airports over the course of 2 weeks or so next June. That's what happened every single time. Every single flight I had was delayed. I spent more time in the San Francisco International Airport. I thought that was my home. I thought that was my home. They might as well have bought me a couch, you understand, or with a bed and just put it there. You understand? Because that's how much I was at San Francisco's airport. I'm just going to be stuck again, and I'm disgusted.
You did SportsCenter hits from the airport.
From the airport.
You did. That was
the
crazy.
airport.
That's quite a scene with him at the airport, too. I know why you asked the question, because you see a team you think is going to be unbeatable, almost kind of lose. They won by 10 points in the end, but you get pushed. You say, hey, maybe it's possible. Here's the problem. It doesn't change my opinion about the season at all for the Warriors, because this is not a one-and-done tournament in the NBA. If the Warriors were a college team and they were entering the NCAA tournament and one loss could knock you out, sure. Then there's no such thing as an unbeatable juggernaut. Even the best teams ever could lose to a mediocre team on an off night. A couple balls don't fall your way. But in the NBA, the best team always wins, because it's a best-of-7 series. So this doesn't change my mind at all about the upcoming season. That said, I'm very excited about the upcoming season. First of all, if you're a basketball junkie, you just like to watch NBA games, which I do. It doesn't matter who's playing. Milwaukee, they're kind of good now. Whoever it is. Utah, you see some young players, let alone the juggernauts, right? The big sexy markets and the great teams. I'll just watch NBA, period. But coming into this season, Stephen A., you brought it up, a trilogy? Are you kidding me? The rubber match coming up where the Warriors beat a depleted Cavs team, and then the Cavs come back on the Warriors down 3-1 and beat them. And this is, in boxing, is called a rubber match because it bounces one way or another. 3 consecutive years, the same 2 teams. And it's so obvious that, as you say, barring catastrophic injury to a key player on one of those teams, or maybe even more than one player, Cleveland will 100% certainly come out of the East, and the Warriors will 100% certainly come out of the West. So in that sense, there's no drama. But in the fight, you get great NBA action in the meantime.
Really? Really? Yeah. Where? Where's the great NBA action?
So see, that's the
stuff that annoys me.
You watching?
Really? Yeah. Excuse me. Yes, I'm watching.
Okay.
But
I just checked.
Here's the difference. I was watching those games last year, trying to gauge who could do what against the Warriors.
And the answer was nothing.
Wait a minute now. Oklahoma City had them.
One wild card.
Oklahoma City had them, okay? But we didn't know whether or not Oklahoma City was going to get by San Antonio.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it was a suspense because, as you know, in boxing, Matchups make fights. Well, matchup makes fights in basketball as well. So when you looked at San Antonio and said, okay, I could see San Antonio losing to Golden State, but I could see Oklahoma City beating San Antonio. So what's going to happen? And then San Antonio, and San Antonio wasn't a better matchup for the Warriors than OKC, and then OKC knocked off San Antonio. And so you said, okay, they got a shot to take them. Now we're watching, literally watching, and we're not talking about consolation prize for the NBA. We're talking about consolation prize for the Western Conference.
Yeah, right.
We're literally sitting back and going like this. Okay, who's going to finish number 2 in the West?
By the way, there could be a dominant fighter on the top of a division. You could still see a fight between 2 good contenders. It is the takeover. By the way, in the words of Jay-Z, you even look at the Clippers, and you see DeAndre and Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. We don't believe you. You need more people.
Let me tell you something.
I mean, once the Warriors got Kevin Durant, it was a wrap in the Western Conference, but they still got to play the Cavs.
Hold on.
In the finals, they got the Cavs. That's Ali and Frazier.
This is very important. Jay-Z's the one that convinced KD to go to Golden State, okay? Let me tell Jay-Z, this is stop it. This is blasphemous stuff. This is very blasphemous stuff. Yeah, he's a businessman.
Yeah.
That's what Jay-Z is saying, and I respect it. But the point is, I want Jay-Z to know Jay-Z's isolated. Jay-Z is isolated because even his crew, including me, all disagree with his decision. All disagree with his decision. Oh, Jay-Z don't want to sit in this hot seat. This ain't some rap concert. He don't want to sit up in here. Jay-Z don't want to sit up in here. And I'm trying to tell you that right now. Because let me tell you something, from a basketball perspective, even though I got to watch my mouth because Jay-Z the one that's always pointing out how wrong I am. And he's usually right about me being wrong. So I get that. But the point is.
Right here. I'm going to point it out to you after this segment.
He would not hesitate. But in this particular equation, and it has nothing to do with KD leaving OKC, going to Golden State. This is the Jay-Z that we knew that loved competition. Now, all of a sudden, it's about business.
Because you're missing the
ultimate
competition.
We have to go to break.
We got to go to break next. I don't want to listen to you no more.
The presidential election is down to the home stretch, and on the 538 Elections podcast, Nate Silver and his team are tracking the twists and turns of what's been one very unexpected race.
Hillary Clinton probably should be losing with these favorable ratings.
It was, again, the influence of Sanders and Trump in this election.
Maybe it turns out that all America really needed was to hear some optimism and patriotism.
That's the 538 Elections podcast. Find us using the Listen tab in the ESPN app or on your favorite podcast player.
We're going in the right direction. We got to take it day by day, and like I said, you never know who you're going to be out there with. So, I mean, all the tight ends, all the receivers, all the skill guys on offense. It's a long process in camp, but we're definitely going in the right direction.
Jimmy G, he's feeling optimistic, but for those Patriots fans who need to see it to believe it, tonight will be the eye test. Confirmed by our Adam Schefter. After first being reported by the Boston Herald, Jimmy Garoppolo will start tonight against the Saints. Tom Brady will sit. Damian Woody back with us. You know a little something about this organization. Won a couple rings with them. What do you expect we'll see from Jimmy Garoppolo?
Tonight is about what I call alignment and assignment. It's the first preseason game. Teams are not going to show exotic schemes. You have some starters not even playing. All the coaching staff wants to see, and Jimmy Garoppolo is in the same boat. Can you get the guys lined up, and can you go out there and execute the plays that are called? It's really as simple as that. Do they want to see you string together some plays, have some success? Absolutely. But for the coaching staff and the players, it's as simple as, okay, go out there. I want you to make sure you're lined up in the right spot, and the basic plays that we're gonna call, can you execute those plays and stay healthy? Get out of there without any injuries. It's really as simple as that.
I don't know what to look for. I mean, you're talking about the first game, so we have nothing to compare Garoppolo to so far this year. Even if it was a second game, you could say, has he made progress? Belichick in particular is not going to show you anything. First game of the preseason, right? And then also you wonder is Garoppolo, as far as the media concerned, a MacGuffin? A MacGuffin is the thing in the movies, right? You see, and they're chasing this character around or chasing after this thing that really doesn't have to do with the main plot. Because Belichick used a third-round draft pick. Jacoby Brissett. He uses a third-round draft pick on a kid who was what, David? Mentored by
Bill Parcells.
Mm-hmm. So maybe, just maybe, Belichick's looking at Brissett as the actual long-term answer to Brady. And while we're all paying attention to Garoppolo because he's going to get those 4 games? Maybe actually the more interesting guy to watch, since we all know the Patriots will be just fine come playoff time. They'll win enough games to get in. Maybe the guy you should actually be paying attention to is their third stringer. See if he gets in, see how many reps he gets, see what he looks like.
You know what happened here, and it's not your fault, Damian, because you weren't here. And Max was here, and, Max is so, caught up, because he got hoodwinked by Molly.
Really?
Molly,
Smooth
Jimmy
cat.
Garoppolo
Jimmy G
has thrown, 31 regular season passes, probably most of it in garbage time. Basically, he's done nothing. His breath smell like Similac, wet behind the ear, don't know a damn thing about the NFL yet, because he's still learning. And it's not an insult, that's my way of highlighting novices. But Molly wanted to give him a nickname. And Jimmy G sounds sassy and sweet and cool. And Max Kellerman jumped all up on it, So they acted like, Jimmy G. Here's the part that everybody missed.
Go, Garoppolo,
all right?
yes.
Jimmy Garoppolo had better show me something tonight. And by the way, I don't give a damn if it's just a preseason game. I don't give a damn if Rob Gronkowski's not playing, Julian Edelman's not playing, Chris Hogan's not playing. These are primary offensive weapons that he's going to have at his disposal in the event, once he gets on the field tonight, because he's going to start and Tom Brady's not. Here's why I need to see something from Jimmy Garoppolo. Tom Brady's not going to play the first 4 games of the season because he's finally come to his senses that was the case, that he wasn't going to win, because even the great Tom Brady with the supermodel Giselle, who, walking on that radio to the Olympics, incredible. That runway, that was a runway walk right there for the Olympics. Beautiful, all that stuff.
Switching her hips.
He wasn't bigger than the brand, the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo, y'all forget, who's he playing against tonight? It would be the Saints.
Yeah.
You mean the worst defense in the NFL? 31 in yards allowed, 31st rank out of 32 teams in passing. I'm sorry, you're going up against one of the 2 worst teams in all of football. All of football. Because no matter how much they have improved, you ain't improved yet because your first preseason game. You see what I'm saying? It's not like you got anything under your belt. Last time we saw the Saints, they stunk. They are horrible defensively, which is why we give Drew Brees such props as a tier 1 player.
No doubt.
Because Drew Brees literally carries that franchise offensively. Their defense stinks. If you're Jimmy Garoppolo, in the first preseason game that they have, coming off epic, just dysfunctionality, ineptitude of the highest order, and this is their first preseason game together, and you can't do anything against them, I got a problem with you. Now, my last point. Having said what I just said, I think it's safe to say we could hold off on the Jimmy G until he shows us that he can do something against a defense that look like they belong in the CFL.
So let me get this straight.
Yes.
So if Jimmy G, as you like to call him, you keep saying Jimmy G.
I say it sarcastically.
So if he doesn't light it up in the preseason, in the first preseason game, if he doesn't light it up in the first preseason game, so all of a sudden the alarms should sound, everything should go off. You're not even game planning against these guys.
David,
all you're doing is
tell me when you want the answer. Don't get caught up
in their source. I am not saying he has to go and play lights out. I am saying that because of how horrible the Saints defense is, Jimmy Garoppolo, show me something tonight. Show me something. That's all I'm saying.
Allow me. It doesn't matter if Jimmy Garoppolo goes, as Tom Brady did in practice apparently the other day, everyone's celebrating 25 for 25. It doesn't matter if he doesn't have a single completion. Everyone here sitting here knows, and everyone watching knows, that the Patriots ain't going to be any worse than 2-2 after week 4. I mean, this is what it is. It's a Belichick team. He did it with Matt Castle. Jimmy Garoppolo's not on the roster by accident. He's on the roster because Belichick thinks he can get the job done. Probably the greatest coach who ever lived in football, in professional football, in the NFL. It ain't going to be less than 2-2. They might be 3-1.
I'm not overreacting.
I'm
not overreacting. I'm just saying, show me a little something. Show me a little.
You're going to see alignment and assignment. That's what you're going to see. Alignment, assignment. And I'm not the only one who Googled MacGuffin during the segment. Some people at home do too.
Yeah, you kind of threw me off.
Alignment, assignment. I definitely Googled it.
That's it.
Warriors head coach Steve Kerr admitted Tuesday that Steph Curry was dealing with injury throughout the playoffs last season. Now, despite Curry's struggles, Kerr says Golden State was still only minutes away from a second consecutive title. Stud didn't play his best against Cleveland, but for some of the series, he had huge games in other parts of the playoffs, which got us to that point. That's all a part of it. And if we had won the last game, nobody would have cared about Steph or his struggles. Max, is Kerr making excuses for Curry?
I take no pleasure in saying this. I really don't, because Steph Curry is, among other things, a role model for kids, and it's one of the reasons he connects with kids in the sense that he's not the biggest, certainly. He's not the strongest. He's not the fastest. And he doesn't jump the highest in a sport where all that stuff helps. But through practice and hard work, he's got handles, just, maybe the best, arguably, and he shoots better than everyone else. That's repetition. Of course, it involves talent and ability, but kids can relate to it because they're like, even if I don't have all the tools or all the talent, I can work hard and become, at one point, I thought last year, the best in the world. Now, Stephen A., before you object to that, I didn't think he'd have been the best in any other era, but I thought by the middle of last year, you know what, this guy's become the best player in the world. So injury, is that what kind of sunk their chances, Steph's injury? Well, he was hurt. It was obvious. He couldn't get separation when he switched on to bigs and stuff. He wasn't 100%. But did injury, can that explain why he carelessly, casually throws a behind-the-back pass out of bounds meant for Klay Thompson in the waning minutes of the Game 7 of the NBA Finals? Can injury explain why he's missing open shots? They didn't score in the last 4:39 of Game 7, the greatest half-court offense ever, based mostly around Steph's ability to shoot the deep three. And they didn't score at all, and he's missing shots. Can you ascribe that to injury? No. So I take no pleasure in saying this, but the reason they lost is not about his injury or anything like that. Stephen A., the reason they lost is because LeBron James took Steph Curry's heart. It kills me to say it, but that's what happened. LeBron heard the chatter. Steph's the best in the world. The Golden State Warriors this, the Golden State Warriors that. And he was dunking it on the whole world, which included Steph Curry. He was yelling in Steph Curry's face. Steph really was kind of shrugging his shoulders, looking away, slouching down, walking away. LeBron James, the actual best player in the world, disabused people like me of the notion that, in fact, Steph, because he's so uniquely adapted to this NBA environment, could somehow pass him even in this era, and that's the reason they lost, because LeBron convinced Steph, you ain't me, you're not on my level. Steph bought it because it's true. LeBron took his heart, and so they lost. It's not about injury.
Max Kellerman, when my former partner was sitting there, I used to want to get security to get him out. I don't feel that way about you. Instead, I would like to make a personal request for HR department to come down and instantly have you drug tested. I mean, the stuff that you just said, that just came out of your mouth, LeBron snatching Steph Curry's heart. Did he snatch Steph Curry's heart when they went up 3-1? Did he snatch Steph Curry's heart when Steph Curry dropped 38 in Game 4, hit 11-25 from the field, 7-13 from three-point range? No, that wasn't the case. Steph Curry did not play well. Steph Curry made mistakes. Steph Curry wasn't himself because he was somewhat hurt. But if anybody gave it to him, it wasn't LeBron, it was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, who averaged 27 in the finals. Kyrie Irving, who got hurt in overtime of Game 1, the previous NBA Finals, who would have beaten the Golden State Warriors the first go-round if they had been fully loaded and healthy that first NBA Finals against them. It wasn't about LeBron James. Yes, LeBron James blocked shots. Yes, LeBron James was doing damage. Yes, LeBron James was getting up in Steph Curry's mug and talking smack, which I absolutely, positively love. But LeBron James isn't sitting sitting here today as an NBA champion for the Cleveland Cavaliers if Kyrie Irving didn't show up? You can act like you don't know, but you know.
Well, you need help. Listen, you can't do it all by yourself.
Let me say something right now.
Who's the MVP?
Who closed? No.
Who's the MVP?
LeBron, absolutely. Who closed?
Yep.
It was Kyrie Irving. Who was in
Tyronn Lue switched Steph on to Kyrie so Kyrie can get that shot off.
Wait a minute. We get all that. But the point that you're missing is that it was Kyrie who was in constant attack mode, salivating out of his mouth every second that Steph Curry was guarding him because he went right at him, because this is what you're supposed to do with a dude who is an offensive juggernaut, but potentially is a defensive liability. Now, do I think that Steve Kerr was making an excuse for Steph Curry? No. He was speaking in reality, but in the end, what it comes down to is that he's also glossing over what Steve Kerr could have done better. In retrospect, in hindsight, we had questions about Steve Kerr going for that all-time regular season record, allowing the guys to do so. Was that a mistake? Potentially. Steph Curry getting himself hurt in the Houston series, okay? And then obviously being a little banged up through Portland, and then obviously Oklahoma City. You still played them. During the finals, okay? Yes, he won, and they blew him out in game 2. But he played 36 minutes in game 1, 40 in games 4 and 5, 35 in game 6, 39 in game 7. You've got Sean Livingston. You got Leandro Barbosa. You've got a multitude of other weapons that you could have used. You should have got Klay Thompson the ball a bit more than you actually did.
Steph threw it away, doing the behind the back to Klay.
You're talking one play. I'm talking the game.
It's a one-possession game at the end.
No, I'm saying you're talking a play. I'm talking over the course of the series. There were times that other people should have had the ball, and Steph Curry, dare I say, should have been used as a decoy. I don't think Steve Kerr did a good enough job of that. But in the end, it comes down to LeBron having help in Kyrie, Curry not having enough help in Steve Kerr for that particular game 7. And ultimately, I don't think it was a choke job. I think it was the combination of injuries, greatness on the part of Kyrie. It's not a choke job.
It's an historic. Listen, I love Steph, but it was an historical choke job on par with LeBron's choke job in Miami against Dallas, 4 consecutive fourth quarters where he just doesn't want it. It's okay. He overcame it. He became a very clutch player, LeBron.
You can't say Steph didn't want it. Steph was missing. He wanted it.
He was throwing the ball away.
He did not choke.
He did not choke.
Look, he messed up, but he didn't choke.
I am shocked at you.
Yeah, he did not choke.
Because you were once a newspaper columnist of extraordinary ability.
I was.
Able to tell the story, to discern and tell the story in Philadelphia, the story of what's happening. Now,
I was due. And if you watched me during the NBA Finals, which I'm sure you did and you love doing so, the bottom line is I was telling the story then. It's the same story I'm telling now.
I was texting you during the...
That's right. That's right. And I educate you then.
Now the tables have turned. Was it a plot line that Kyrie was going at Steph? Of course. That's a plot line. It's a minor plot line compared to the major story. There are lots of little storylines. The major story was the two juggernauts in the West and the East with a player who's really the greatest player of his era. But has his time passed? Has Steph now taken over? Consecutive regular season MVPs, 73-win team, beating Jordan's team. Are they better than the Bulls? All this kind of stuff. Could Steph overcome LeBron? And they were up 3-1, and LeBron let Steph know, no, you can't.
But LeBron,
when the history of the NBA is written hard.
But LeBron letting Steph Curry know speaks to the greatness of LeBron. It doesn't speak to Curry choking.
You think Steph wanted it? Did it look like Steph wanted it?
Excuse me. Again, he was going for it. He was just not healthy. He was just not, and he messed up. But he didn't choke.
Oh, I can show you choke when you mess up game 6. You know what it's called when you mess up under pressure?
Against OKC against Warriors.
Google, messing up under pressure. You know what you're going to see? Choke.
No.
I'll get that after the break.
Something wrong with you. Something wrong with you.
Guess what? The NFL preseason opens tonight with 6 games on the docket. Among the storylines, Jimmy Garoppolo will get his first action as the Patriots starting QB while Tom Brady sits out against the Saints. Mark Sanchez competes with Trevor Siemian for the Broncos starting QB position when they face the Bears. Gentlemen, Stephen A., I'll start with you. What are you looking forward to tonight?
You know, it's interesting enough. I'm looking at the Redskins and the Falcons.
Okay.
I want to see what Josh Norman is going to do, how much time he's going to play. I know it's his first preseason game or what have you. I don't know if they're going to play their stars or whatever the case may be, but you just never know. The Redskins, obviously on paper, should be the favorites in the NFC East, but I'm still questioning whether or not they're allergic to prosperity. And I want to see how they're going to look moving forward.
Washington at Falcons, meh. Bucks at Eagles, meh. Saints at Pats. Garoppolo and
we already spoke about
Drew Brees, by the way, gets in for a series. You always want to see Drew Brees. Panthers at Ravens, do we even get to see Cam Newton? That's the reason I'd be tuning in. Jaguars at Jets, meh. Broncos at Bears, you want to see what's going to happen at quarterback, what they look like. They just won the Super Bowl. So you got a slim pickings, but it's the first game of preseason. I know everyone's thirsty for football, but preseason never does it for me. But the Saints at Pats, Panthers at Ravens, Broncos at Bears at least gives you something to look at tonight.
It gives you something to look at, and I definitely think that, you can sit there and say it's curious to see what's going to happen in Denver, but at the same time, when you think Mark Sanchez, you think the butt fumble. When you think Paxton Lynch, you think rookie. When you think Trevor Siemian, you're like, who the hell is this guy? So really, it's about Denver's defense, and that really doesn't matter during the preseason because the dudes that matter shouldn't be playing in this particular game.
Well, except Siemian, right? Who the hell is this guy? Right. You get to see him a little.
Well, again, you get to see him a little and what happens, but essentially, even if he were to get the job, it's by default because it's an indictment against a rookie because he's a rookie, and it's an indictment against Mark Sanchez because you don't believe him and he's still indelibly attached to the butt fumble, which gets me back to the Falcons and the Redskins. In certain respects, you're interested in the Falcons because obviously they started strong last year before nosediving over their last 11 games, but you still got Matt Ryan there. You still got Julio Jones there. Let's see what happens and whether or not they've improved their defense. But the real story is the Redskins because the NFC East is always an interesting and compelling division. Even though the Eagles are expected to be in the cellar, the Giants spent $200 million on their defense. The Dallas Cowboys are who they are. Yeah. And you look at the Redskins and you constantly wonder who's going to mess it up for themselves because that always seems to be the case with one of them within the NFC, with the Redskins having Josh Norman, with Deshaun Jackson expected to be healthy going into the season with Pierre Garçon, both in the last year of their contracts, with Jordan Reed being the stud at the tight end and Kirk Cousins willing to validate himself with a one-year $19.95 million deal going out there to prove his worth. You do find yourself interested.
In a weird way, though, Kirk Cousins is going to be the quarterback. That makes Washington less interesting to me to watch than Denver. Not only did Denver just win the Super Bowl, but because, what's going to happen there at quarterback? That actually makes a preseason game a little more interesting.
All those quarterback situations, even with the Eagles, I think, as well. But you guys are sleeping on the Jags and the Jets. Remember, you debated earlier, you're mad that the Jags were so high on the power rankings? That's a team I want to see.
Everybody's been talking about them.
Yeah.
I don't go for that in the NFL. When you have a history of ineptitude, okay, I have to see you become relevant first. I mean, my Lord, we got a team going to the playoffs that hasn't won, that hasn't even had a 500 record.
But it'll be interesting to see them tonight. I think against the Jets.
I can't predict. I'm saying to you, I'm projecting that they ain't going to be in the playoffs.
So you like Jags and Jets tonight?
I want to see that tonight. Yeah.
Jags and Jets?
Yeah.
Okay.
Meh.
Broncos, we think Mark Sanchez is going to be the starter week 1?
Yeah, but what is that saying? What is that? So? You beat out Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian if that happens. Wow!
But
let's stop the presence.
Mark
Sanchez is a starting quarterback in Denver, like he beat Peyton Manning or something. Who the hell would he have beaten?
By the way, last year's Peyton Manning wasn't that hard to beat either. Osweiler beat him.
Oh, gosh. More gratuitous shots. I'm excited for the preseason, people. A great slate. We're going to break them down tomorrow. We're fired up. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, thank you, guys. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Thanks so much for listening to the pod. Catch First Take weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on ESPN2. Have a wonderful day.
This weekend, one of baseball's fiercest rivalries heats up at Wrigley Field. Matt Holliday and the St. Louis Cardinals face Chris Bryant and the Chicago Cubs. Saturday at 1:45 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.